Alright, this is Robert, and I'm going to make my best attempt at a quick video to explain how these synthesizers work for the purpose of the concert. Some of this you may not need, so some of this might be a little bit above and beyond, and some of it may not. I am going to try to keep this simple and not too complex for people because, it's like the King David going against Goliath with King Saul's armor, right? He's like, well, I haven't tested this. I haven't fought in this before, so I'm not going to go out with this armor on, right? That makes sense. You wouldn't want to just show up at a concert, to an unknown, keyboard or synthesizer, and I'm just going to do it. Well, so I'm going to do this video the best I can to explain how these synthesizers work, so that at least you'll get some idea before you get here. So this is the System-8 right here, and this is the System-1. Now the System-1 is the easy part. It's got 4 voices, meaning you can hold down up to 4 notes at a time. The keyboard is not, it doesn't have any travel. It's almost like a controller, like you're playing Rock Band. Now, that being said, you usually don't need 4 voices or more. Well, you can use 4, but you don't really need, usually, more than 4 voices, more than 4 notes at a time for pads, because that's not what a pad is for. So, this thing came with the pad that's stored on number 1 called Deep Pad. It sounds absolutely amazing. Maybe you can't hear it totally. Let me see. Can I increase the volume? Alright, should be able to hear it now. Anyway, so now it's got a great pad. Now here's the thing. What you can do with synthesizers is you can grab the low pass filter, the LPF cutoff, and you can adjust how things sound. You've probably heard on multi-tracks that some churches have the pads seem to sort of come in and come out, or change what sort of area of the sonic region they're in. That's how you do it using the low pass filter and the high pass filter. The low pass lets the lows pass and filters out the highs. The high pass filter lets the highs pass and filters out the lows. So it's almost named backwards because the LPF controls how much treble, the low pass, and the high pass controls how much bass. So here's the thing. This pad is just about perfect because both the knobs of low pass and high pass are in the middle for this pad. Right? So, and it usually starts out that way. So here's what happens with a synthesizer like this. The value doesn't change until you turn the knob, to start moving it, right? So if I have the stored position where I just hit the button and go back to the memory that's been saved, it sounds like that, right? I have to actually do something to it to wiggle it around. There, I changed it, right? Now that being said, so how do we use that in worship? Here's the basics of low pass and high pass. Low pass is usually the one you want to play with. I'm going to bring it all the way down. It's the same notes that I was playing, but I was moving the low pass filter up to about halfway. Now, to be careful, synthesizers have lots of treble. This is just a screensaver, basically. Synthesizers have a lot of treble, so that's half. That is full blast, right? So what do we want to do? We probably want to keep everything in a certain amount. But the beauty of it is, let's say hypothetically we were in a church situation and the pastor comes up and he's like, let us pray, while you're holding onto the pads, right? You just got out of I don't know, Battle Belongs by Phil Wickham, so you're amped up, right? And you want to bring it down. There, low pass filter. Problem solved. Easy as pie, right? Simple as that. Now, let's say you want your pads to be up in the atmosphere, higher in the treble ranges, and gentle and not full blown, like we are right now. That's the other one, which is the high pass filter. Below that. You hear that? Only a little bit of the highs are coming through. I can increase that, right, to add a little bit more, But again, it's one of those things where like I got those two things I can mess with that will essentially do almost everything I need to do for worship, right? Here's one other option. Let's say you're playing notes and you want certain notes to ring out for a very long time while you let go of the synthesizer and go to the other one. So like let's say I'm in one and only A, and I'm doing that whole thing I was talking about with E. I can hit the hold button over here, but that's sort of like lame because then I'll forget that I have it on. What I can do is I can reach over here to the filter, the amp filter, and turn up the release time all the way up on that little slider. Right? I just switched over to doing the other thing. Right? It's still ringing out, but like it's taking a very long time. Now, you notice that this light is flashing right here. That means I've modified the memory setting, or basically the patch that we were messing with. If I need to go back to what I had stored, I just push the button and it stops flashing. Ta-da! Right? Now, synthesizers are going to look a little bit intimidating, right? Because they have lots of stuff on them. You don't have to mess with any of it, though. That's the beauty of it. We've got saved memory positions. You just hit the button and you go do what you need to do, right? Now, the System-8, that's a little bit different because this baby has 4 different synthesizers built into it, essentially. It is a System-8, but then it's got other things on it, right? So how does this work in worship? So I can do something where like I'm on 2 different pads, like this one right here is called big pad, this one's called deep pad or whatever, right? I can intentionally play and layer pads, right? We don't have to use the same notes either. It can be in different octaves, all kinds of cool stuff like that, right? So I could be doing something like, you know, so I've got 2 octaves of pads going on, right? So I'm not trying to emulate, for example, stuff that Hillsong's done, like the song Beautiful Exchange, but that's how they do that too. They overlay several pads, right? So in the beauty of it is in the concert, like you don't necessarily have to do any of the piano parts at all unless you want to. Now there are some piano sounds on this, like random sparks. It's got that really beautiful like late 80s like synth keyboard sound, but the beauty is it also sustains itself. As long as your hands are on the keys, it's going to keep playing, which is great, right? So it's not one of those things where like it just stops at a certain point. You can just keep going. It can basically sort of like be used as a pad. Now, the System-8 has 8 voices, so if you really have to press down 8 buttons at the same time on this thing, it will do that, right? It'll play all 8 notes. Not more than 8, but 8, right? So, you shouldn't need necessarily that many notes in concert, but you can, right? So if I'm doing pads, and that's what I want to do now, remember the filter sweeping I was doing? That's what we call like playing with the high pass and low pass filter. We call it filter sweeping. I can do that on the System-8 using this controller right here with my left hand. Right? Because it's mapped to that. So do it going left reduces it. It'll snap back if I let go of it, so that's normal. Now, I can also bring it up to increase the brightness, so like on more energetic parts of songs, it'll sound like either strings or like more high energy, right? But yeah. Now that being said, it also has vibrato. If I push the lever forward, it's supposed to like increase the vibrato. Some patches it does more than others. Like let's see. Right? So like this is the glass cloud patch. You can hear that it like modifies how much vibrato is going on, right? So here's the beautiful thing is like you got all these patches, right? Like this patch, Glass Clouds, would be great on Psalm 64, Lord of Hosts, that song by Shane and Shane where it goes to the bridge. Let's see, how did it go? Although to be fair, like it does have a little bit too much of a resonance kick that I don't like. So you know, it depends on what you want to do. Whatever sounds good to you is fine. Here's the strings patch. You can increase the brightness of it or decrease it. Right. The beauty of having a lever here, though, is like I can gradually like move it gradually while I'm in a song. Now that being said, you can still grab the high pass and low pass filters right here too. So if you want to do now, that being said, it's going to show an asterisk on the name on the LCD display. This one doesn't have a display, but this one does. Which means you've modified the patch. So to change it back, you would just hit the number. Basically, this thing has the patches, or 64 in every single synthesizer on it, so like 256 probably. But don't let that scare you. There's only a few that are useful that you'll want to try to play around with anyway. But my point being, like it's set up like A1, A2, and then there's like there's letters right here of A through Z or A through H, and then 1 through 8. Which is like, you know, so the patch is like A2, A3, whatever, right? If you modified it and you want to go back to what it is, you just hit the 2 button over here. You don't have to go A2. You can just hit the 2 button and you're fine, right? So it'll reload what you're doing. That could be a great way to play around with certain parameters while you're like actually playing. Now, that being said, there are many different things on here that a synthesizer does really well. That's another electronic keyboard, right? There's bells, like synthesizers, like Christmas is like the perfect season for synthesizers in church, right? Now, so if you're playing along, you don't have to play bells on, on Battle Belongs, right? But what I'm saying is you can, right? You can play like whatever you want over here while the pads are going. There's also there's a Rhodes simulator on here that's actually really good. Right? So you could do that. The main thing to know though is like you can modify any parameter on here that you want. So like if there's something like in depth that you want to modify about how something sounds, we can hash it out in practice. I can come over and show you how to do it. For example, there's like where is that? Where is that? Power organ. This one is like an organ, but it's got some overdrive on it. If you were like, hey, I like this, but I don't want it to have as much overdrive, you can like take it out. Yeah, watch me say that you can take it out and it doesn't work on the recording. Where is it at? Why is it doing this? Hold on. Alright. That's the funny thing is like, just as soon as I say that you can take it out of the patch, I can't find it. Anyway, whatever, but you get the point, like, we can train anything out of it. This is like Glass electronic piano, Glass EP. If you want to use this, you can, etc. There's like a ton of them. Now, I said there's like 4 synthesizers in here, right? We're on System-1. If I press this, I get Jupiter 8. Now it's going to act like it's a Jupiter 8 synthesizer from the 80s. And it's got its own beautiful pads on here. can do the same thing. I press the next button over and I get the Juno synthesizer, Juno 106. So it's got its own keyboards. That might sound familiar to you. That sounds a lot like the Juno 60 synthesizer that Enya used. But you don't have to use that. Where's the, there's like pianos, ice keys. Where did I put it? I put a pad on here somewhere. I swear I did. I'm gonna find it. There's some bells. Where is it at? Right? And then one more press of the button and now we are on the JX3P. By the way, synthesizers have a horrible time trying to emulate piano because piano is actually not a very pristine or pure instrument. It's the imperfections that actually make us like it, makes our human ears like it. And that's one of the pads on here. Here's the emotive pad. Emotive pad is one that like gets a lot of compliments when worship leaders hear it. Now, how did I change the filter that quickly? What I did is I used the keyboard itself. It's mapped over so that that's going to affect the low pass filter based on how hard I hit the keys. That's another beautiful thing about the emotive pad is you can hit it gently and it sounds really smooth, and then like really get into the treble when you dig into it, right? So you have a lot of options on this synthesizer. Almost anything on this thing, from how hard you have to hit the keys to do things to other stuff, can be modified to your taste. I love this thing. I've done major concerts with it. It's great. But it's going to be real synthesizer pads and not the stuff you hear on multi-tracks, which is like a computer simulation with like a million bells and whistles going on inside of it. There's pros and cons to that. But I'm gonna want you to like engage in your own creativity. Like you'll get a chance to hear how all the pads sound. You'll get a chance to like do stuff with it, right? Spend time on it as much as you want, like playing with like how it sounds. And I'm probably going to go back and make sure that like the best sounding pads are the ones that are on the first memory section of the synthesizer, so that it's really easy to quickly access it. But that being said, let's say you go through all 64 and you're like, hey, I want this one on E4. I love how it sounds. No problem. I can just switch it over to like the first segment, like A1 through 8 or whatever you want, and then you can just press it and it's right there. So ideally in worship, you'll have as little button fiddling to do as possible. And like I said, this one right here, you can use it for bells, basses, and all kinds of things, organs, you name it. You can use that just as pads only if you want it to be like the go-to pad. Like say you're having like difficulty deciding while you're playing worship, you couldn't figure out what you wanted to do down here, you can be still holding the pad on this one and it'll be just fine. It's got a great sounding pad. So anyway, I know that's a lot of stuff to say in one video. It's going to take a while. I'm going to like send you some educational videos on how synthesizers work, and hopefully you'll enjoy that. Thank you for watching this, and if you have any questions at all, give me an email or like a text or a phone call, and what I can do is I can go and record another video explaining whatever you want. Thanks.